Adam Wakefield. You know, the first time I ever heard from you was Adam Scott Wakefield, where you used your whole name. You know, Jerry Scott Thomas is my name.
I used to be Adam Craig Scott Wakefield was my full name, actually.
You got 4 names?
Yeah, I don't know. My mom is a feminist, so she didn't want to give up her last name when I took a name, so she hyphenated them. So it was, it's been the bane of my existence. Taxes, driver's licenses, passports, all the things. Rapid rewards numbers, grocery, I mean, everything.
You guys obviously have more money than we did. We could only afford 3 names.
Well, it's funny. I remember I used to have when I was going to school in New York, I had a Jewish guy teaching me how to play piano, incredible keyboard player. And him and his wife, I remember going over to his house in the Bronx, and remember he answered the door, and his wife answered the door, and she says, "Oh, hello, Adam. Good to see you again." I'm like, "Oh, hi." And she's like, "Honey, your student's here." And he's like, oh yeah, okay. Who is it? That's the nice young man with the 4 first names.
Just
crack me up.
You're a rarity, because the truth of it is, because being from the South, people always give me hell for having 3 first names, right?
Yeah.
But you're from the area of the country, New Hampshire.
Uh-huh.
You finally, guys, you finally met somebody from New Hampshire. It's very rare. There he is.
Yeah, hey, I know.
He's right there.
I'm the one guy.
But in the North, it's the difference. The North, you get 4 last names usually. Morgan.
Yeah.
Johnson, Freeman.
Yeah. Wakefield's not a first name for sure, but Adam, Craig, Scott, those are all first names.
So tell me about New Hampshire. I'm serious. I don't know if I've ever, I thought it was weird when I found out, that Chuck Wicks and Jimmy Allen were from Delaware, because I'd never heard of anyone from Delaware, much less.
Yeah, Delaware's, at least there's like a city in Delaware, Wilmington. New Hampshire, New Hampshire's great. You like trees? Go to New Hampshire. You like lakes? Go to New Hampshire. Anything else? Probably shouldn't go. I mean, it's, ain't a whole lot going on. It's easy to get stuck in New Hampshire as well. Getting out of that state is tough, man. But it's beautiful. I mean, it's cool. It's just like, honestly, it's just like anything else in the South. It's just like backwoods Alabama, except maybe a little less,
yeah, I do know. That's the reason I'm not in Alabama anymore. But now let me ask you this: do you have a state you can look down on? Right? Can you look down on Rhode Island? Because in Alabama, we've at least got Mississippi. I mean, it may not.
Yeah. Hey, look, I'm with you. I don't know. It's pretty tough. I mean, I think I would say I met some folks from Maine. I would say the backwoods folks from Maine are probably more backwoodsy than the New Hampshire folks. But I mean, it's a close one. The Vermont people dog on us. The Massachusetts people dog on us. The Connecticut people dog on everybody. I mean, I don't know. It's a pretty tough one. Rhode Island. I mean, everybody just makes fun of Rhode Island because, it's big. That's about it, really.
Do you know who lives in Rhode Island, if I'm not mistaken?
No idea.
Elle King.
Oh, okay.
I'm not even kidding. Cause I was talking to her people, and they're like, yeah, well, she's going back to Rhode Island, so she's kind of incommunicado right now. And I'm like, wow, she lives in Rhode Island. There's the one. Well, she's not from there, right? I mean, her mother's an actress and her father is Rob Schneider. So she's not from Rhode Island. She literally went to Rhode Island and went, yeah, this will do.
Only thing I know about Rhode Island is, I think, Provincetown. Is that in Rhode Island?
Wow. I have no idea.
I think Provincetown is in Rhode Island. I have been to Provincetown. That's a fun area. Good time.
Have you been to all 50 states?
Possibly. I would think I've been to all 50 states. I mean, I've done the cross country van crawl enough that I would think I've probably been to all of them.
Traveling is so damn tough as a musician, isn't it? I mean, really, there's songs written about it, and it was worse back in the bad old days when you were traveling by bus everywhere. But
no AC. That's the thing. No air conditioning. I don't know how they did that. I mean, here's the thing. What makes or break it for me is like having your own seat. So like in a van, like being able to lay down. So like, with Texas Hill, we only, they're always like, oh, we want to send a content guy with you on the road. We want to send a, video guy. I always say the same thing. I said, you can send as many people as you want, as long as I have my own seat that I can lay down in and go to sleep when I want to. That's what makes it or break. If you got to share a bench seat with somebody, this is miserable, man. This is just miserable.
Well, it's just because the thing about it is you just don't get enough rest. I mean, and again, you would think, well, you're only playing for a few hours a night. But I mean, between the traveling and the fact that you're not getting to bed till, a lot of times you're not out of a bar till 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. And then, as you said, you tear down. And now you got to be, you were in Provincetown and now you got to be in Williamsport, tomorrow night.
It's and it's funny. I've done it all. I've done the car thing. I've done the van thing. I've done the super nice tour bus thing. I've done all the things, and it doesn't matter what you're in. Sleep that you get when you're driving, it's just not like normal sleep. It's totally different. You're just getting jostled around. I don't eat as much when I'm on the road because I can't eat a big meal and ride in the van because you're just. Now, granted, we need new shocks in the van, but it's just a different thing. Like I can fall asleep in a van faster than anywhere else. I mean, I'm out instantly.
Yeah.
But the quality of sleep that I'm getting in the van isn't like it is when it is in a real bed.
See, now it's interesting. I think it was Brothers Osborne, and I think John was telling me that he loves buses because vans don't have bathrooms. Right. So if you got to go to the bathroom, everything's, you gotta make everybody stop. Everybody got to go in. He goes, an airplane, we're not at that stage where we can afford to fly to gigs. He goes, but a bus is wonderful because not only can you eat, you can go to the bathroom.
Well, I tell you what, get yourself a 5-gallon jug of water, empty that thing out and bring it in. Swear by it. And here's the thing. I don't even use it that much, but just the fact that I know that it's there and that I can use it if I need to helps me not worry that I'm going to be that guy. So, I mean, I'm not getting any younger. So, frequency will start to be an issue here soon, I'm sure.
And I asked this question, I hope it doesn't sound stupid, because you are such a musician. Was it a choice for you? Is it something that you just, man, I find that interesting? Or was it more like a calling? Was it something that was going to be hard for you to resist one way or the other?
I think it was one of those things that I did at first just because I knew, I watched other people do it. And, and I was like, that's not good. I could do that. So at first I was 4 when I first started playing piano. I just remember seeing the girls playing piano for the recitals. And I was like, they're terrible. I could do that way better. So I went and got piano lessons and went and started playing piano. And then when I figured out that I was, everybody would have the same teacher and I would go in and I'd be a lot farther along in the lesson books than everybody else. And it just came a lot easier to me. So I guess in some ways it was kind of an innate talent, but I mean, I don't know, man, it's a long, hard road. And it's not it's just you work harder and harder and harder at it. And I think when I was in high school and I kind of looked around and I looked at I was like, oh, quarterback of the football team, what's he going to do later? He'll probably be pumping gas at the gas station. The girls in the acting in the drama club, what are they going to do? They'll probably be pumping gas at the gas station. So what's the thing that I can do that's fun that I can actually make money at when I get older? And I was like, well, if I just work really, really hard, I'm sure I can get good enough to either back somebody up or teach lessons or whatever it's going to be. It'll be something I can actually make money doing. And so that was kind of where music came into play.
The world of music, though, is so stupid competitive. I literally had a conversation with a guy yesterday, as a matter of fact. He's a concert cello player. And he played for 37 years, right? And he kind of retired from it and got out of it when he was younger. He plays for enjoyment and he writes songs now. But he was telling me, he goes, the level of musicianship that these kids are able to achieve today, they can go on YouTube and figure out the proper way to put their hands and stuff like that. And he goes, for us, it was a piece of paper and somebody you met once a week who would smack your hands when you hit the fingers wrong. Right. The level of, and he goes, the level of musicianship he thinks is higher today. You know, this is an older man. He's in his 70s. And he said he thinks the music, and he goes, it's amazing anybody can make a living simply because there's so many amazing musicians to choose from. And my point to him was, I think that's what makes originality that much more valuable.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a whole new wave, a new breed of musicians that, you know, I call them the Instagram musicians. You know, like all the musicians are all on Instagram, watching all the other musicians and seeing what they're posting up on Instagram. And so there's this new, like, it helps and it hurts. I think it helps in the sense that it's making people practice and it's making people sit down and learn things and, and get better and compare themselves to other people in a, when it comes to proficiency on their instrument. So I think all that's great. I think the problem is that, the Instagram thing only encompasses certain kinds of, it's kind of like, I don't know, for instance, like in jazz, right? If you were going to post something on Instagram, it's probably going to be fast. It's probably going to be swinging, and you're probably going to be playing a lot of notes really fast. If you want people to watch it, you want people to like it, you want people to post about it, all that kind of stuff. You want to post stuff that's impressive. Well, not all the best music is impressive. You know what I mean? Like, how many people are on Instagram in the jazz world posting videos of them playing a beautiful ballad, for instance, which is every bit as important as, swinging your ass off on some up tempo, bebop number or something. So, I think even though it's creating more opportunity and more motivation for younger people to practice, I just hope we don't, kind of lose the point of music along the way, and I fell into that myself with the Instagram thing. I mean, I started posting videos and doing different things. And, next thing you know, instead of spending my week learning 2 songs from beginning to end, I learned the first minute of 6 songs because you only post a minute worth of stuff on Instagram. And honestly, as far as attention, ability to, pay attention to stuff for long periods of time, about a minute is all anybody has anyway. So, I was posting a minute worth of music, and then I kind of went back and I looked and I was like, man, I learned half of like 30 songs and I don't know the other half. What's the point of knowing half a song? What good is it? What good does it do you as a musician to learn half a song? So I just kind of, my priorities got thrown for a loop. And so I stopped posting stuff on Instagram for a really long time as far as music stuff is concerned, because, my motivation to practice and wasn't to build on wasn't to add more tools to my toolbox and to build on my proficiency and my ability and grow as a mature player. It was to find something cool that people will like on Instagram, and so, and even somebody like me, who I've always hated social media, still found myself falling into that rut. And, so, it's, I don't know. It's got its pluses and its minuses for sure. But I mean, honestly, if kids are still practicing instruments, good, because in the way things are now with social media and video games and everything, Netflix and all the things, getting kids to practice their, C major scale. Yeah. I mean, that's a tough one. So any way we can do it is good, I guess.
I think, because I like what your answer is. I do that. I think when you're doing the minute or 30-second clips, what you're looking for is technical proficiency, right? So you want to see somebody hit all the notes. Dig, 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 dig. What you like about the ballads is that's, to me, when artistry starts coming in. Yeah. Right? Yeah. We're taping this the day after the CMA Awards. I don't know. Did you watch those last night?
No.
Okay. If you get a chance, if you get a chance, pull up Chris Stapleton and Patty Loveless singing.
Okay. Ooh, all right. Never mind. Now I feel bad for now. I was watching Star Wars. I'm sorry, I'll check out. I'll check out Chris Stapleton and Patty Loveless for sure.
Never Get Out of Harlan Alive.
It's such a great song.
9 minutes that song went on. 9
that's
minutes,
so great.
And it's
good.
It's a dirge, right? I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, dude.
You can't sing that if you're a nominal singer. Not for 9 minutes.
No.
You know,
no,
and that's to me when the artistry comes up. And by the way, it was Patty Loveless's song. Chris Stapleton was joining in, and I've always told everybody. I was telling somebody earlier today that I've never heard a bad Patty Loveless album. There's just not such a thing. She's amazingly brilliant, and it was fun to watch that, to watch the artistry that had to come from not hiding hiding it with technical proficiency, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think the country music world is it's funny how that it's like they've got Chris Stapleton there, like, hey, we care about real music. Look, we got this guy, like, so, but thank God he's there, thank God he's there to keep the compass, and keep everybody honest. You know what I mean? It's like, no matter how many beer and truck songs you no matter what funny hook no matter how many boats you buy, when Chris Stapleton opens his mouth, it's just undeniable. It's some undeniable stuff that, and however music, evolves, and however country music evolves, and how everybody wants to argue about whether it's good or bad or whatever, regardless of all of that stuff, the end of the day, when you can sing like Chris Stapleton, that's timeless. That's something that will live on forever. People might not remember some of these folks that are putting out some of these songs that are just kind of like fun little hooks with a little thing, and these kind of blips on the radar. Somebody like Chris Stapleton, I mean, that dude will live on forever. And people will be listening to Chris Stapleton 100 years from now.
Well, you hope. You really do, because I've been doing this long enough now, right? I mean, I've been doing this long enough to realize there were a lot of amazing artists that we've completely forgotten about, that we have, right? Because
this is true. This is true.
The beautiful thing about country music is we keep moving forward. I mean, if you sit back and think about rock and roll, right? Rock and roll. Biggest touring acts in rock and roll are 50 and above. The Stones and the Who are closing in on 80.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they're up there.
Even Dave, who was it, Foo Fighters, Dave Grohl, they're in their 50s. They're in their 50s. Yeah. Metallica's in their 60s. I mean, so the format is not allowed to change. And the thing about it is the best thing about country music is it keeps moving forward. And so I got into it. I started doing country radio in 1976.
It's a good time to start doing it.
Yeah, boy, T.G. Shepherd. And but the fact that it is so much bigger. Yeah, this is how long I've been doing it. I was on a radio station, WKWL, AM 1230, Florida, Alabama. And I'm a kid, and somebody knocks on the door. It's a house trailer. So, so I opened the door, and there's these 3 guys. And they came in, and they said, hey, we'd love for you to listen to our song. Now, again, I'm a 15, 16-year-old kid? And I'm like, okay. And they did a home press record. Now, the cheaper the record, the thicker it was. So I mean, this monster looked like a sandwich. And, and I sat back and I said, okay, because my boss wasn't there. And I'm like, okay. So I put it on and I listened to it. And the first song was My Home's in Alabama. And I'm like, well, this is really good, but I can't see out of Alabama's going to play this. And I turned it over and it was Why Lady Why. And it was Randy Owen, Teddy Gentry, and Cook. And at the time, they were still known as Wild Country. They were playing a bar about 25 minutes from where the radio station was.
That's nuts. That's crazy.
So but the fact that it has changed so much, and I've been doing this long enough to hear, I hate this phrase. That ain't country.
Oh yeah, it happens. It happens all the time. When Garth Brooks came out, they're like, "That ain't country," you know. And
when Mother Mayball Carter came out, they went, "That ain't country." When Johnny Cash came out, "That ain't country." That's my point. Is that people define country by the 3 to 5 years they like, and only by the artist they like, right?
Yeah.
So I'm always like, listen, I've been doing it long enough, and thank God they changed. I would go crazy. I would have gone crazy if I'm having to play the same artist for 35 years.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing too, is like, you know, everybody's like wants to judge. Oh, I don't like this. I don't like that. That's not country music. This is country music. And what I tell people is, I'm like, look, I love Willie Nelson, and I love Waylon Jennings. You know, I love all that country stuff. You know, but I love traditional country. But nowadays, what's country is what's on the radio. So don't say it ain't country. Just say I don't like country music. You know, like. Yeah, like you can't say it's not country music because it's on country radio. So I just, you know, people ask and say, "You like country music?" I say, "Well, I mean, I like traditional country music. I don't like country music, you know, because as far as I'm concerned, you know, I'm a musician, so I listen to the, you know, I'm listening to like the notes, you know, and as far as the notes go nowadays, you know, it leaves something to be desired. So, you know, so I think everybody gets hung up on what's country and what's not. It's like, just listen to what you like to listen to, man. So who cares what it's called, you know?
That's
like, if you don't like it, don't listen to it.
And
you know?
You can find it now. You can find it.
Yeah.
You can find people singing songs about cheap whiskey and bad cocaine.
Yeah, if you look really, really hard.
Really hard. I mean, as far as, and I do love the freedom that's happened in music. I mean, the subculture, you might have heard songs like that back in the 60s and 70s. You could have found them, but you wouldn't have it. And that's an Adam Wakefield song, if y'all haven't figured this out yet. And it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Boy, you write low points in life better than anybody. You really do.
Well, I've had my share. So, if I couldn't write low points in life, I don't know what would be the point in my ridiculous, you know, my life story.
Majority of people can't.
It is what it is.
Majority of musicians can't, right?
Well, you know, writing songs is the crazy thing, man. And, you know, it's funny. Some of my worst times of my life, I've written some of the best songs, you know, and it's tough. And I think that's the other thing that's tough too, especially nowadays with like, you know, cancel culture and all that kind of stuff. It's like, look, man, you guys want songs about whiskey. You guys want songs about heartbreak. You want songs about that. Well, you gotta have to let people make mistakes, you know? You're going to have to let people do stupid stuff. You're going to have to let people do stuff that they're not going to be proud of. Because if we don't, we can't write songs about it. You know, you can't write songs about being a son of a bitch if you don't let me be a son of a bitch for every once in a while, you know? And so I think, you know, look at the Allman Brothers, great example, Greg Allman, you know, like, I mean, that guy has written so many great blues songs, so many songs about heartache and about, you know, the problems with drugs and everything. Dickie Betts is another one. Those guys wouldn't have lasted 6 months in the business nowadays. They'd be canceled like that. You know what I mean? And so it's like, you know, I don't know. I think everybody needs to just relax a little bit and let people just be people and write songs about being people. You know, holding artists and everybody to a you know, a higher standard. It doesn't help the art. You know, it hurts it. And so, you know, and if somebody wants to be racist, you know, just because you know you still listen to their music doesn't make you a racist. It just makes them a racist. You know what I mean? Like, you know, call people out for what they are and then move on. You know what I mean? Like, I think, you know, James Brown's a great example. That guy has pretty much done every awful thing in the book you can do. But he's the godfather of soul. And I'm not going to not listen to James Brown because of all the awful things he did. I love James Brown. He's, you know, he made me who I am today. So, you know, I mean, I wouldn't be the singer I am, and if I hadn't sat down and listened to James Brown songs. So, you know, I think, you know, I don't know. We'll see. I think we're coming to a place here where, you know, we're not giving people the leash to make mistakes so they can write songs about it. You know, I mean, that's why rock and roll's dead. You know, I mean, you talk about rock and roll, you talk about people touring and all the big bands, and you're like, well, the format doesn't allow for it to change. And it's like, well, unfortunately, the format for old school rock and roll ain't gonna fit with what we got going on right now, culture wise. So, I think that's a big part of it. There was such a mystery to it back in the day. That's the other reason why rock and roll is dead, is like, there's mystery, man. Jimi Hendrix. No, I mean, what do you know about Jimi Hendrix? Nothing. You know why? Because he's mysterious. It was a great thing.
And dying early helps. I mean, that always.
That doesn't hurt.
You get to be real mysterious if you die young enough, right? I mean,
that was. Well, I guess like with the singing shows and stuff, like being on The Voice and American Idol and everything like that, it's like, people don't understand why it's so hard when you get off one of those shows to have a career. And, for me, my biggest thing when I was on the show is I was like, look, I got lots of ugly stuff in my past, and, not ugly stuff, but stuff that you could use to drum up pity and get more fans, and backstory stuff that you could use to try and tie in. But I was like, look, man, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be off limits, because if I'm going to have a career after I get off the show, there's got to be some sort of mystery left. I don't want everybody knowing what my dog's name was when I was 15 years old. I don't want everybody knowing what I got on my world history exam in sophomore year of high school. Like, there needs to be some sort of mystery around these artists. And so, like, all these bands and all these like crazy stories about them being on the road and all that kind of stuff, that's all the mystery that surrounds it. And that's just not really the thing anymore. I mean, every artist nowadays, you can go on their Instagram and see what they're eating for breakfast.
Yeah, it's part of it. It's interesting because social media. We're going to take a quick break, and I'm going to come back because I want to go deeper with Adam Wakefield, because, man, this kid is whip smart. We're coming right back. That's all we know. It's time to think differently when it comes to your parties, meetings, and groups. The catering from Havana Cuba restaurant in downtown San Jose. Instead of the same old, how about the most delicious Cuban sandwich you've ever had? You're tired of fries? Plantains, my friends, they'll change your world. And here's something you didn't know. Havana Cuba was voted one of the top 10 tamales in the entire South Bay. They have vegan, vegetarian, and gluten-free options, and their website is 998cuba.com. They're located at 387 South First Street in downtown San Jose. It's Havana Cuba. Okay, so going back on the social media thing, it is a necessary evil, right? I mean, you have to do it. You have to have a website. You have to be out there. There's no way. And the truth of it is J.D. Salinger, if you know that name, especially from your neck of the woods, the more you tried to hide, the more people want to know. They're going to continue. And today you have the ability to access, whether it's accessing even just the people and getting into your sphere, and going through that. I totally agree with you that the mystery is gone. That's something I don't know if we'll ever get back, because I don't know. I think the social media, I think the cancel culture and stuff like that, this is history. It's
just a phase.
Yeah.
It's just a phase,
and it'll
for
bounce
sure.
back, and then it'll become cool again. To not, and we're already seeing that. We're already seeing artists who go, I'm never on social media. And or you get people to handle the social media for you, because my social media is handled by somebody I hire. Right?
Because, me too.
I'm busy, and it's not something I'm comfortable with, and the whole thing. And so I think it will go back and forth. It'll push back where even now, I mean, last night at CMAs, one of the featured performers, he was up for an award, didn't win anything, was Morgan Wallen. Well, now, a year ago, you would have thought if it was up to the CMAs and the ACMs, you would never have seen him again. Well, not only did he get nominated for Entertainment of the Year, he didn't win. All right, we can throw the politics of that, but they gave him a featured spot because pushback on them, the pushback on the council, and you're seeing that more and more, is starting to become larger. It's starting to amplify. And I think that will help, and you're going to be able to write those songs. You're going to be able to say, you're right. And James Brown is such a great example. if you go look at James Brown's record, oh my God, I love studying musicians' history. If you know anything about George Jones and Tammy Wynette,
same thing.
They were psychopaths. They were
100%.
Legitimate psychopaths, but they were and I can still love their music, but they were horrible people. We've put them in this hazy, wonderful, cause as people get older, we want to see them as our grandparents. No. Yeah. These were horrible people. They were icons of country music, Yeah. And James Brown.
Well, when George Jones starts singing Almost Persuaded, you don't care what he did that day. You could care less how many tractors he rode down the highway,
or how many times he tried to kill his wife.
Right. Exactly. All that stuff. And that's the thing, I think with the cancel culture stuff and everything, I think the reason why it's going to go away is something that everybody hates, whether, I'm as liberal as they come. If anybody should be, worried about woke and all that stuff, it should be somebody like me. And I'm like, look, man, I care about people. I don't care about that stuff. You know what I mean? I care about social policy. I care about, I care about making sure I have equal opportunity for everybody, regardless of your sex, your race, your gender, all those things. I very much care about all of those things. This is not how you change those things. This is just how you mess up art and how you distract people from the real problems, which is the inequity between the rich and the poor. This is just another distraction, that the people in power are using to get everybody to fight so they stop talking about the fact that, there's random people that have 5 yachts. That's the problem, so everybody's just it's the next distraction that they've managed to put us all onto. So, and I think everybody's kind of figuring out that that's not how we fix stuff, I mean, and it's also a pendulum. Everything's got to swing one way and then it'll swing back again the other way. So, it is what it is. And I guess I kind of fall into the old fogey, bitching and moaning category about this. I am 40. So, I guess I'm going to have to take this one on the chin.
Kids, damn you, get off my lawn. How about that?
Yeah, I'll go get my broom and start shaking it here in a second.
You young punk kids, you just wait. Wait till you get here. This is your future right here.
Yeah.
And it'll be something new. And our kids, I remember having this conversation with this guy one time because he found out I got a 10 and a 12-year-old, right? I mean, this is called the face of optimism right here. You're looking at it. And the guy's like, aren't you scared to have kids? And I'm like, why? He goes, with what's going on in the world today, climate change and politics being so divisive. And I'm like, can I remind you that me and my brothers and sisters grew up in a world where they taught you how to hide under a desk because there was a nuclear bomb coming? That we literally the world was going to end? I mean, there has always been bad times. And oh, by the way, do you know who argued against the political system and worried about the corruption and the divisiveness? Go read George Washington's farewell speech. This has always been a part of who this country is. It happens. Democracy is truly messy. It is really messy. And I agree with you about the inequity and the things. Hey, listen, when you have public servants on both sides, and somebody needs to explain to me how both Republican and Democratic leaders are worth hundreds of millions of dollars and they've worked in government. Highest paid government worker is Anthony Fauci, who was making, I don't know, 500,000 a year. That doesn't equal 200 million. I don't care. No. So, I mean, I do agree that when you sit down and when you talk to people, because I guarantee you I'm more conservative than you. But my thing is I bet you and I agree on 98% of what we face in our lives. 98%.
Oh, yeah.
And then 2%, we can go. And here's my thing. I always tell everybody this. When I have a political argument with somebody, I don't like to have political arguments, but when I have political discussions, here's what you need to know. I'm rooting for you. I'm hoping you convince me I'm wrong because I've learned something then. If I convince you you're wrong, I've not learned anything. High fives for me. I won. What does that even mean? But if you could ask me something, I'm like, well, hell, I never thought of it that way. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's, and how do you, within the band Texas Hill, I mean, you got Casey James who's from Texas, right? And
they're both from Texas, and they're both much more conservative than I am. Yeah.
So you guys have obviously found ways to bond, to communicate.
Yeah, we just don't talk about that stuff. we don't talk about it, and if we do, we just make offhanded comments under our breath. That's all.
That's what you do. It's and I think there is, and musicians who are brave enough to make their political statements, good for you. Don't bitch when you get blowback, right? So, and that's both sides. I don't care what side you're on. Don't care. But then you don't get to say, I've got this platform to say what I want to say. And then I think that's the biggest part. Instead of cancel culture, what cancel culture really means is I don't want anybody disagreeing with my opinions. Right?
Right.
So
we have an agreed upon list of activities people are allowed to partake in. And if they do anything other than these agreed upon list of activities, then they're bad people, and we shouldn't listen to their music, and we shouldn't look at their art, and and they're worthless. Worthless in every other way, and that's the thing that's like, come on, guys,
Here's the big secret. You only get canceled by your own side. The other side can't cancel you. Right? So you're going to be canceled, so that's what I'm saying. When you step over that line and you say something that is not the group think, I don't care what side. I don't care what side. When you say something that's not the group think, that's when you get canceled. So it's not from, it's the people standing behind you that are to cancel you, not the people standing in front of you,
Yeah. It's a tough one, man. It's hard finding ways to, it's hard figuring out where that line is, like where it's, like telling people to vote. That's one of those things where it's like everybody should be on their Instagram. Everybody should be telling everybody to vote because that's something everybody can get behind. Everybody should be voting. Everybody needs to let their voice be heard. We want whoever people that we're electing, we want them to be the actual will of the people. The more people vote, the more that they will be the will of the people. So that's stuff that we can promote. That's easy stuff, But then, when Donald Trump got in office and everybody, and it was just a mess, and everybody was on there talking about this and talking about this, talking about that. And it's like, man, that's when it's like, dude, put the soapbox away. Let's just, this is just a waste of our time. Like supporting people on your, using your platform to support people that need your support, that's great. But using your platform to tear people down, whether you're right or not, I don't know, man. I feel like you're just shooting yourself in the foot,
I agree. And my only caveat when I say vote, because I do try to encourage people to vote, but I also encourage them to know who and what the hell you're voting about. You don't let the ballot measures and the candidates the first time you go in the voting booth be the first time you've seen these names or these things,
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was in line at the voting booth this time reading about the propositions that I had to vote on because oh shoot, I didn't even look. So I had to go through and read them, and and they're complicated too. It's like you don't know whether you're voting for it or against it. I had to read a bunch of this stuff a couple times. So I'm as guilty of that as anybody else. But yeah,
Well, I feel superior because that's what I do. I literally sit down and I take, I don't know, an hour and a half. I try to get information, but I will sit back and watch everything and look at everything because I don't want to be swayed by political ads. Political ads have,
totally.
I want to know, well, hold on, exactly what are we talking about here? What's this?
Yeah.
So it's,
you can't trust any of that stuff. That's just, that's just money. That's just money talking. That's all it is.
It's just fascinating. Listen, I went off on tangents with you that I didn't even expect, and I loved every damn.
Hey, whatever. I'm really fall into this grumpy old man category really well. It's really,
there's no grumpy thing about it. I have, it's just the, I love you. You told me the story when you were on my morning show one time about how you you had to figure out how to sing. You had to work your way around and figure out how to sing, because here's the thing. I love your talking voice. It's just one of those voices. You have one of those voices you could talk to for hours. But as I told you on the radio show, man, you are the Jim Neighbors of Gomer Pyle. You know, Gomer Pyle was, and all of a sudden he would sing and he'd be like, oh, I'm enchanted, you know, and you're that, you know?
Yeah, it's very weird. It's a weird thing, man.
Well,
I get that a lot. People are like, wait, that's your talking voice? I was like, trust me. It took me a long time to get my singing voice not to sound like my talking voice. But it's a long journey, man. You know, I'm one of those, I fall into that generation of musicians and artists that, like, we kind of are, like, I'm kind of from both generations. I grew up listening to stuff from the 60s, listening to, you know, Muddy Waters and Buddy Guy and Stevie Wonder and Greg Allman and John Prine and all these people that, you know, existed, and then listening to music and grew up thinking, I want to be a rock and roll star. That's what I want to do. I want to do rock and roll. And then, and then once I got old enough to be a rock and roll star, I watched rock and roll die. So, you know, it's like, and everybody, you know, I just wanted to be in Skinner. I just wanted to be in, you know, I wanted to have a Leonard Skinner band or Allman Brothers band, you know what I mean? And then I just kind of, older I got, the more I watched it die, that kind of stuff go away. And, you know, so now I'm in this, group of folks that are kind of left over where it's like, oh, well, we can't do that anymore. What do you do now? And so it's just, you know, so we're all just kind of, and there's a bunch of everybody in my age group, like my specific age group, like from like 30, like 36, 37 to like 42, 43, like that group of folks. So like, especially people that are really like good musicians and people that work hard, we're just kind of like, I don't know what to do now. You know, all the things that all the people I grew up idolizing, all the music I grew up loving, it's all taking a back seat now. And we don't really know what to do. So, you know, I mean, somebody like me, I just kind of keep doing it anyways, even though it's not popular anymore, you know, and just try and just keep doing what I do and just make the art regardless of what's going on around me. But, you know, it's funny. It's a very, Casey James is a great example. Another person, the same exact group that I am, where we grew up idolizing people, and like the blues, for instance, when we grew up, when we were listening to the blues, you know, and play, you know, and learned how to play the blues and everything. Back then it was still cool. Okay. For white guys to do blues music. You know what I mean? Like it was still okay for me to, like sing a song about like whatever. It didn't really matter because it was just the blues. And then like now we're in this like new cultural appropriation world. And so now now I'm like, well, man, I learned how to sing like Muddy Waters. I learned how to sing like, you know, all these blues songs. And I can't do any of it. You know, I had a great example of that is I had me and some of my buddies from Baltimore, we're going to get together and do a like kind of all-star show of us in Baltimore. Everybody was going to, you know, and just happened to be the group of folks that could do it, that were all kind of from the same community, to do this like big thing. And it was like about soul music and kind of a bunch of different generations of folks that did it. Well, just happened to be all white guys and we're all guys that play in bands with black guys and everybody, you know, like, it wasn't like we specifically set out to pick all white guys. It just happened to be the guys that could do it that day, you know? So these are the folks that we did. So we had like put this all-star band together. Everybody was super psyched to do it. We were going to do a live stream and everything. And then we started getting messages from folks being like, oh, you're doing a show about Baltimore and soul music. And there isn't a single person. There's no diversity in the band and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, what do you want me to do, man? You know, like what is, how do I fix this? You know, I've been promoting African-American music since I was 5 years old and I heard my first Buddy Guy record, you know, like, and I'm not saying that I have just as much dibs to this music as, you know, somebody who like, you know, an African-American person, but, like, what do you want me to do? Like, I guess we just don't do it, you know? And so it's just kind of like, now it just ruins it. You know, it's like, now we don't get to do this thing that had zero, you know, there was zero, like, appropriation or anything going on. I mean, back in the day, Muscle Shoals, there was the Swampers, which was like an all white rhythm section that played with everybody, but like everybody. So apparently maybe we can play those songs and not get accused of cultural appropriation or something. I don't know. But so I'm in this weird generation of folks that like, we've been making music for a really long time and not worrying about that stuff. And now it's like this thing. And so now it's like, now we got to navigate this weird thing where it's like, okay, I can make the art I want to make, but I can't appropriate anybody else's culture, and I can't talk about this, and I can't have any of these things in my past because people won't, because that's not okay, and people won't, it's just like there's just this weird time to navigate music, especially for people in my generation.
Well, it's racist in my opinion because it punishes the music, right? And that's what it does. I mean, when you sit back and say, well, you can only do this. Well, as a cultural appropriation, can I only read books that were written by straight white males? Is that what you're telling me? Can I only go see movies that, that have straight white males or who vote the way or have my religion? Because if you just keep going down that path and sifting and sifting and sifting, and, you hear the term identity politics and we all go, what does it mean? Well, it means that everything becomes more and more and more and more and more narrow. And you're, I don't know. I don't like to use the term victim status, but the thing of it is you try to say, well, I have no rights to this because here, and it's just luck of the draw. I mean, it was if your great grandfather was Chinese at some point, that was horrible. Depending on where he lived at, right? If he was trying to make it in San Francisco, that was a hard life. Well, now if you say your grandfather's Chinese, are in Chinese here in the Bay Area, who bats an eye? You just sit back and go, wow, that's you as a culture are doing great. When we winnow it, I always have thought the thing that makes America great is the melting pot thing. I love about the Bay Area that I go to a Mexican restaurant and see a Chinese guy cooking and I don't think anything of it. Or I go to an Indian restaurant and see a Mexican cooking, or a Latino.
Best soul food I've ever had was cooked by a bunch of Mexican dudes. Yeah. 100%. I think, and everybody's like getting distracted by this same thing. We're just distracting ourselves from the real problem. Like, a great example is when, I feel like about a couple of years ago, everybody was up in arms about the fact that there weren't enough black people in country music. And, and so they just started inserting, black artists into stuff and giving them more opportunities. And I'm not saying we don't need to give people more opportunities, but in the back of my mind, it's like, we don't want to discount the fact that like there's also a culture that goes with all of these things. So if you're, it's not about making sure that there's black people in country music. It's about making sure that we're promoting black music, whatever it may be. You know what I mean? Like throwing one or two black artists, black artists into the country music world. That's not really going to fix anything. What we need to do is look at the airwaves and go, hey, all right, well, do we have enough? Is everybody represented? Is all the music that all these cultures are making represented? Because that's the thing is like, look, the blues is a great example of like something that, it's a music that came from a specific culture. You know what I mean? Like, so to sit around and like, it's like, it's instead of trying to level the playing ground in every way, shape, and form, what we need to do is be promoting people and, promoting everybody the same and giving everybody the same opportunities as far as like to promote the kind of music that's coming from the cultures that they're in. And so I think, I don't know. It's a hard line to draw as far as like, is it really helping or is you just bitching about things, because there's lots of things that can help.
Yeah. And this is a fascinating conversation. It's a fascinating conversation. And I really appreciate your point of view. And it's good to have because people will get scared of it, right? I mean, because anytime you start talking about culture and music and stuff like that, and again, every music is influenced by some other music. I mean, there's no original stories written, right? I mean, everything is influenced by everything else. And that's what makes it wonderful. First, And just a side note, are you as shocked as I am that Greg Allman is still alive? Aren't you shocked?
I know.
If wait, taking me back.
Greg Allman isn't alive. Greg Allman's dead.
When did Greg Allman? Because they were going to do his 75th birthday party.
No. Greg died.
Did he?
A couple of years ago. Yeah, he's dead. Gee, you had me going there for a second. I was like, oh, sure, I'm going to go see Greg Allman. Yeah, no, he's dead. He's been dead for a couple of years.
Maybe something should have, because I thought for sure I saw something about Greg Allman. They're going to have a 75th birthday party for him.
No, but I am 100% surprised he made it as long as he did. I mean, that guy, I've heard some stuff. I mean, that guy you'd have to put a line of cocaine next to his bed to get him to get up in the morning.
There's, the stuff that they did, the life that they lived. That's the one good thing about social media. And I'll tell you this is, there's cameras everywhere, right? And you're going to be expected to go. So you don't see headlines of guys running around with their wives or people doing drugs or stuff like that. Now, the flip side of that, it seems like one of the biggest causes of death amongst young musicians now is suicide. I think that's the flip side of it, right? That we've learned to watch our morals and maybe sometimes it's because we're just afraid of what other people are looking at instead of realizing what's inside us. But the other side of that is you're afraid of what's inside of you. And if you need help, man, not you personally, Adam, but if you're listening to this and you need help, I've got people in my family struggle with depression, who struggle with anxiety and feelings of worthlessness. Go get help. They're doing great things. They can help you. So let me get off that soapbox, but
hey man, you've been there.
I can't imagine. If anybody listens to any of your music, and what I love is talking to you. You're one of the most joyful people that I've had a chance to talk.
You should tell my wife that.
Well, listen, that's just, the same thing as my wife. People will go, oh, he must be so funny to live with. And my wife's like, are you crazy? And I'm like,
actually, it's just a pain in the ass.
I always just say this. I'm like, do you think Steph Curry's wife, when Steph Curry goes home, do you think she asked him to pop 3 or 4 threes? No.
Yeah.
That's what we do at work.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the version of me you get right now is just a version of me you get right now. There's only so much I can say. There's only so much truth I can drop. There's only so many, there's only certain opinions I can share. It is what it is. That's the days, that's what we're living in right now. It's a tough one. It's less than, and that's like when we're doing interviews and me and Craig and Casey are doing interviews. I know the whole time they're nervous that I'm going to say something I shouldn't say because I'm nervous I'm going to say something I shouldn't say because for the longest time, I didn't really have to worry about it too much, and now it's like, man, you say the one wrong thing, people can take it out of context. They can do whatever, it's just it's a weird time. So it's, I try to stay positive, Well,
you do. And somebody was asking me, what is it about your podcast? What is it you're trying to do different? And my answer was, I honestly try to go into it with no barriers, not for my guests, for myself. And I'm going to go anywhere you're going to go. And I'm going to follow you down that line because I think that's where really cool stuff happens. And I know we were probably both nervous when we were talking about some of the things there, but I'm like, I'm not afraid. You can be nervous without being afraid. I like nervous. Nervous keeps you sharp. Yeah. Nervous keeps you sharp.
Oh yeah.
If I used to be, when I did, like when the first time you go on the air somewhere, and somebody asked me, are you afraid? And I'm like, no, I'm never afraid, but I'm nervous, but that's what I want to be. If I'm nervous, man, your body's built to notice everything that's happening. And we tend to forget the cool part of that. We should do things that make us go, hey, am I paying attention?
Well, it's hard, it's a hard place for like songwriters to be in, you know what I mean? Like we're the people that are trusted to tell the truth and be honest about things all the time. We're the ones the way I look at songwriters is like they're the ones that are supposed to be able to live outside of everything so they can have an objective view of what's going on so they can spread the truth to people, and be honest about things. But it's like when we've got it's and I'm trying to do that, and I try and be honest about stuff and say the hard things to say and admit the hard truths about myself and things that I don't want to. But man, it's a tough time to be doing that stuff because, like you're saying, man, it's like every time I get to one of those points in a conversation, I'm like, I don't say the wrong thing, dude. Like it's hard. All the, like John Prine, for instance, man. John Prine trying to put like his first record. I mean, all of the the kind of social commentary and just all of the truth, the ugly truth that he wrote about. I mean, that's some stuff that it'd be tough to put some of those songs out right now and not get any blowback about them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Throughout the history of country music. I mean, whether it's John Prine or, let's be clear, Merle Haggard caught hell. Loretta Lynn caught hell. Right?
Yeah.
Because, when you're sitting back writing some of the songs she wrote at the time, women weren't allowed to talk like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that's, I was having this conversation with a songwriter a couple of weeks ago about, who would you put on your Mount Rushmore of country music? And I'm like, I would only put people who changed the game. I would have Jimmy Rogers, because without Jimmy Rogers, there's no country music. I would put Merle Haggard, because he just, again, changed the way it sounded. I'd put Garth Brooks because we may never have a bigger country music star ever. And I'd put Loretta Lynn because, again, she changed the way it sounded. Now, you could easily argue Mother Maybelle Carter. You could argue Willie Nelson. You could argue Don Cotton. You could argue George Strait, But that would that'd be mine. Because you have a different aspect. What would be yours? Because I know we're running out of time. But what would be yours?
Well, it's tough for me because I don't really listen to any country music after probably 1980.
Then fine.
Sadly to say.
I don't care. I ask Adam Wakefield what yours.
I mean, for me, my faves would be Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, Patsy Cline's up there. She really is. And like Randy Travis. I just love Randy Travis. I just that voice, and who knows? He didn't really, I don't know if he really affected the evolution of country music all that much.
He did.
He did. I guess they kind of went back in time when he came around.
He redirected the course because we were going to the Dave and Sugar. These are getting names you don't remember. The Dave and Sugar, the Janie Fricky, the polished kind of pop. We think pop country. Yeah. No, they had a really pop country sound in the 70s. And Randy Travis totally course corrected the entire thing.
Yeah. And it was just because of that voice of his, man. I mean, God, what a voice. And, I was never a really big, country music guy for a really long time. And I didn't get into it until I really started digging into the bluegrass stuff. And then,
I love bluegrass.
And so then once I got into the bluegrass thing, I kind of parlayed that into, learning about all my favorite country singers. And, those probably be the folks that would be on there for me.
And you want to talk about a tortured soul, man, Randy Travis. One day they're going to make that movie and they won't make it before he dies, but one day they're going to make that movie and it's going to be crazy.
Yeah. It's going to be a tough one.
It's going to be great. Dude, I have had so much fun. I hope we can do this again. Because
hit me up, man.
I have just enjoyed the hell out of this conversation.
Good, me too.
I met Adam, when he did our radio show, and I was just like, I got to talk. I got to go deeper with this guy because I knew, you meet somebody, the whole still waters run deep. When somebody's like, well, I got a lot more in my mind than what we're talking. and that's what I wanted. So, next time we'll even be less afraid.
Hey, it's just as long as you give me enough rope to hang myself, I'll keep coming around.
I'll climb the tree with you, Hoss.